And welcome back to. I was gonna say this is a finale, but I guess it's technically like episode 13 recap.
Finale
Um,
part one.
yeah. It is the day before the actual finale. Um, it's literally hours before I have to head over to the theater for work. So we're really cutting
Mm.
it close. The last possible moment. Michael's flying early tomorrow morning, so we can't or anything tomorrow.
We just meant to keep our fans in suspense, keeping them on the edge of their seat. We need
My mom texted
anticipation.
me. My mom texted me this morning and was like anxiously waiting the new Michael and Ellis show episode. And
Girl, me too.
I was like, you're so that you should be calling us out because we should have gotten this out earlier. But
Yeah.
that's okay. Um, yeah, let me.
You're,
So
you're
the
doing it now.
last
That's what
episode,
counts.
yes, exactly. Consistency.
Exactly.
As long as we get there eventually. Um, last episode was 2 hours. Two people went home. Two people won immunity. An idol was played. A lot happened. Two idols were played. There's a lot of twos. Um,
Two. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Two idols were played. Sorry, I had to remember Sue's because it was
Yep.
so uneventful and
Yep.
boring.
But so yeah, first, um, first half of the episode, I guess, or like kind of almost like a regular episode. Andy gets idled out by Rachel, who nullified 3 votes, I believe. Um, Essentially two. Maybe it was just two. Um,
I thought it was more. It was four.
was it four?
I think
It
so.
was.
I think everyone except Sue voted for Rachel, I think.
Yeah, but Rachel used her block a vote.
Oh, so yeah, three. Three.
Yeah.
You're so right. Three.
Um,
Blocked
and yeah,
Sam's
so
vote.
yeah, pretty crazy. We can get into that, but before that, let's just do a little more quick recap. Oh, and Genevieve won the immunity. That's why she wasn't being targeted. Yeah.
My queen, my goddess.
uh,
Church of Genevieve.
uh, moving on to the final five. Rachel squeaks out immunity. I don't know how that tower stayed standing. That was kind of bullshit, but whatever. Um, Rachel wins
Physics is just on her
immunity,
side.
and Sue, out of nowhere, plays her idol. Oh my god! This is game changing! And Genevieve goes home. There was some questions of is Genevieve's idol fake or not, and is Sam trying to pull off a Operation Italy 2.0 Part 2 with Genevieve. But yeah, ultimately Genevieve goes home, and we are now approaching the finale. So yeah, I guess we should talk about. I was so going into this episode. I was so ready on just like I have predictions for fire and winners, and that was just tunnel vision. But I feel like there is I guess a lot of to cover to probably mention.
Yeah. I would love to talk about Andy's game as since we've seen it finish and how it's finished. We now have the full story of Andy's game.
Hmm.
Um because oh my god, what a way to go. Um
That I feel like I mean getting idled out is like a survivor player's dream. That's like the ultimate like compliment.
I mean more as the reason he was
Oh, true.
where he go went up to Rachel and was like, "I'm voting you. Here's my entire story in this game and why I should win, and what you should tell people in the jury," which is crazy. Um, but was so fascinating because his arc was so like I'm shit at this game. Everyone thinks I'm shit at this game. Turning that around and becoming really good at this game because no one thought he was, and everyone underestimating him for the longest time, and him playing into that, to revealing way too early that he
Yep.
has actually been planning this the whole, or not planning this the whole time, but has worked beautifully with the cards he was dealt,
Hmm.
thus causing his downfall, which is just so like. And I mean, we were talking earlier about how um neither of, or I think neither of us were really sure Andy would win. Like there was a possibility, but I think we both thought that the perception that he gives wouldn't be enough to like win. Like the jury wouldn't like him enough. So it was interesting to see him try to remedy that, but that ultimately kind of caused him to like his like downfall. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, do you think like I should, because it was like it was kind of a last desperate attempt. I think he was realizing that the jury all hated him. Like they all clapped when he got out,
I think
which is crazy.
I think I mean, a lot of people in the Survivor community, Stephen Fishback especially, um, mentioned the importance of having someone on the jury that can kind of uh, be your messenger, your like the person to like argue why you should win before you get to the final tribal council and you can actually give it yourself. And I think that was what Andy was trying to do with Rachel, is to make sure that like when he starts trying to say he's this big player at the end, everyone's like, "What the hell are you talking about? Get out of here! Like you're full of bullshit." You know. So I think that's why he was so upfront to Rachel about it. Um, which you know, it's easy to say like, why would you ever be that honest? Uh, you never know if someone's gonna have an idol or not on Survivor. But I think there's a lot of factors. Like I think it was so interesting when the shot in the dark was taken away, because then everyone was suddenly so much more upfront about things, because they were like they felt like there was this fear of a shot in the dark play that was now gone, that they didn't have to worry about. And also, if you look at like the idols, I guess at this point there's still the like the paint um conundrum of like, what the hell is this red paint doing
Mhm.
here? Like, so maybe you still have some worry about an idol being hid. Um but also like, Rachel went on the journey. Like there hasn't been many times where people can get advantages outside of journeys. Um
Mhm.
and so I could see why he, like him and Sam too, thought it was like a safe bet to say that Rachel didn't have an idol. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
but yeah, so I understand why Andy was feeling like he was almost overcompensating, feeling like he has to prove to someone that he can win. But I also feel like he's getting a little ahead of himself, because there's still a lot left to do in the
Yeah.
game, and he has to ultimately just get there. Um,
Mhm.
and if let's say Sam went home in that tribal council, like I think Andy would probably have a really easy way of getting into the end, because Rachel and Genevieve are probably still perceived as larger targets than him, especially after Rachel plays her idol.
Yeah.
Maybe Genevieve actually makes it to the end in that scenario, because Andy becomes a bigger threat than her. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that, I mean, I was just, because it was so set to be Sam, or that
Mm.
was the plan. Um, and
Yeah.
then it switched. So Sam stayed, and then we get to the final five where my queen, Mother Veer, is voted out,
Other beer.
tragically so.
Michael did light
I'm
himself
crying.
on fire, guys.
I I did. That's why this episode took so long because I was in the hospital
You
after
were
lighting myself
healing.
on fire. I was healing. This was a traumatic time. Um, but I mean, honestly, like, considering from since, like, Saul's vote, she's been targeted, like, making it to 5th is, like, crazy. Like, from the final 9 onward,
Absolutely.
it was her name was consistently thrown out every single time, but now she is sadly gone. The only thing that annoyed me about her was towards the end when like her and Rachel are like, we're the best players in this game, but we're like rivals. And they say this literally in front of everyone. Like I think this last episode really was kind of like I'm going to give it to like exhaustion where they just like can't like they think they're so close to
Mm,
the end, they're almost done. They're just like,
yeah.
fuck it. Like I'm like kind of
They're
just
kind
gonna
of
lay my cards
letting their
out on the
guard.
table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think
Yeah.
that was potential foreshadowing for the final three of being Sam, Sue, and Teeny? Because we had that moment immediately after where they're all sitting together and they're like, "This is bullshit."
Yeah, I mean, I I pers I personally hope that Rachel and Sam make it to the end because I think that would
Mm-hmm.
be the most interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, coming from the same tribe and consistently working together, not working together, working together, not working together.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I'm sorry to any like, don't get me wrong, I have Sue. Love Sue. She's great. She's um vindictive and clearly and kind of a mean girl. But and always muddy for some reason. But the only people that I can personally see winning are Rachel and or Sam. Um, More so Rachel. Like the only way I could see Sam winning is if Rachel does not make it to that final three. But
I definitely.
that's why I'm kind of hoping they both do make it to the final three. So there's still a bit of a competition, at least in my head. But again, anyone's game. It's just that's tough.
Well, I feel like this last tribal was really the one that like sealed the deal for kind of Rachel, because she's able to convince Teeny. It was really weird watching it in real time for me because I was thinking it felt like they were showing Rachel as she really believed that the idol was real and she was but after watching it with you and thinking about it more, I think she was just I think she knew she had enough numbers um to make Teeny throw a vote on Sam. She was convinced like oh god, I don't understand why Teeny made this decision. Teeny like go back to her to their confessional with their bag catching on fire, and it's like
Mhm.
now is my time to really go all out, and I'm either going to like win this game or my game is going to go up in flames. And
Mhm.
I think that was the two ways, and at the time I was like going full tilt. It's the winner confessional, but I think it is the going up in flames confessional. I feel like since then they have had very bad episodes. And I honestly
Mhm.
think it's also a foreshadowing that Teeny will be losing in fire. I don't think Teeny is gonna make it to final three. That's my big hot hot take.
Mhm.
Maybe my
Yeah,
hot take's gonna go up in flames as well, and I'll be wrong on that.
I
Um,
I agree with you, honestly. Like I well, I mean, I genuinely think that it's either going to be Teeny or Sue who goes home in fire is
right.
personally what I think. And there's also been I would also agree with Teeny more likely being going home because there's been a lot of her talking about how she's like, I can't beat Rachel in fire. Like, I can't beat Rachel in fire. I'm not good at
Mm.
fire. And so, um, I feel like if she does go home in fire, there has been constant foreshadowing for them to go home.
I also think that going home in fire would explain more of like we've had Heaney has had such a strange edit where they've been so it's been they've been shown in such a positive light consistently over and over and over again when they've been consistently failing. And then they start to have this turn where it's going downhill. And I think if they were to make the final three and lose, they're like trying to give their pitch for why they should win and lose, it would be a much more like villain low point than if they were to come up short right before, like right at the end. Like they might even really try and build Teeny up in this next episode to give them a reason how they could possibly win, but then just come up short. And it's like, damn, maybe if Teeny did win fire, maybe you have that like who knows kind of question.
Mhm.
But ultimately with Teeny's like tweets that they've been sending the past like couple of weeks and just how they've carried themselves in these past two tribal councils, um, your pitch to win doesn't start at final tribal. Like of course it's during the whole entire game, but especially in these last few tribal councils, like
Mhm.
Heaney's
Yeah.
admitting to like not really understanding what's going on, or like that's why
Yeah.
in this final five tribal council where Genevieve goes home, I was so pissed at Heaney and Sue because they had the perfect opportunity to leave Rachel out of the vote completely, leave her in the dark,
Mhm.
keep her thinking the idol is real, essentially do what Rachel did to Teeny. Um,
Yeah.
just to and have some way to show that they were controlling the game over Rachel. Just have some kind of so that if Rachel does inevitably go home and fire, then they could have an argument against Sam, um, assuming Genevieve still goes home. So
Yeah.
they didn't do that, and that's why I'm like, okay, well, it's either going to be Sam or Rachel at this point. Um,
Mhm.
I do think Sam. I mean, you were saying it too when after we watched it. Like they are starting to really build up Sam's argument to win. Um, and I
Yeah.
was I was just watching the specialist too, and they were talking about how he is a sports broadcaster, so that he's doing a lot of live commentary where if you mess up, you just got to keep rolling. And like
Mhm.
in a final tribal council, that's a really valuable skill to have. It's like if you slip up or you lose your train of thought, you have to figure out how to like just keep on going. Because if you keep stumbling with your words, it's kind of like public speaking, like you can't really uh, come across as like you don't know what you're talking about. Basically. Convince people that you the winner.
Yeah. And I think um you're in like a situation where Sam has been such a perceived threat, and it really
Mm-hmm.
becomes a thing of perception as reality. Um, like if he gets to the finale, like Sierra's in his corner no matter what, I feel like, and is probably constantly being a voice of like pro Sam in the jury. So you already have that from like the very beginning of like a Sam supporter. Um, and I think it's really interesting because it's like he may have not, because from what I have seen, I personally think Rachel has played the better game. If you were
Mm-hmm.
comparing Rachel and Sam, Rachel has played the better game. Because I think they really did have a flip where Sam played better in the beginning and then worse in the end, and Rachel played worse in the beginning and better in the end. Um, because I feel like once Soul gave her that safety without power, that's where her game really started.
Yeah.
And but in terms of like in terms of Sam, like after Sierra left, he was kind of floundering for a really long time trying to find footing. And we saw in the Sol vote, he tried to change it around, it didn't work. And he kind of started to constantly be in the bottom. And I think it's like
Can
so
I?
interesting to have, yeah,
Or sorry, no, finish your. Yeah, yeah.
but it's just so interesting to have kind of this like perception because Sam looks like kind of a jock bro. So people think like, oh my god, he's super strong, he's super good at challenges. And he is good at like challenges, but he can never actually pull it out. He can never
Mm-hmm.
actually like win them. So it's like, just people having that perception of him of being like Sam's a threat. He's like strong, even though he hasn't won like an immunity. He's like strategic, even though
Yeah.
like a lot of his votes haven't gone like through or the way he wanted. Especially like in this last one, he had to throw his closest like ally Genevieve under the bus to like
Mm-hmm.
survive. That was his only move he could do.
I mean, it actually reminds me of something you were saying earlier. Um, I think Sam has done a good job at continuously like voicing how he feels like he's playing from the bottom when he really kind of isn't. I like
Mhm.
you say like he played a really masterful game in like the pre-merge, like start of the season, and then once Sierra went home, his game kind of fell apart. But you could make the argument he has voted correctly every single time since the Sierra vote, except when he I mean, even the Sierra vote, he didn't have a vote, so he couldn't even vote wrong. So he
Mhm.
was in on the Rome. He was in on the Annika vote. He was in on the Rome vote. He didn't vote in the Tiana thing because he was in the that like was split
Yeah.
halfway, and
Mhm.
then didn't have a vote in Sierra's. He voted out Soul, but that was like I don't really count that. Everyone voted for Soul except for Soul. He voted for
Yeah.
Gabe. He voted for Kyle. Then he had the Operation Italy with Genevieve and Andy. So he voted out Caroline, which Rachel was on the wrong side of the vote of in that case. They
Yeah.
were left out. And then he got his vote blocked for Andy. So
Mhm.
there's I think
Yeah.
there's you have Operation Italy and then you have Rachel's idle play block vote Sam. That they those there's basically like there are only two differences voting wise.
Mhm.
Because they both vote for Genevieve also. So I
Yeah.
think Sam has a very good argument of whoops. He has a very good argument. He's like, I've been in on every single vote. I have decreased my threat level by not maybe he'll say that he has I don't know. I he's used physical like Kyle was a shield for him, so no one targeted him on the physical challenges. Um, and he's been a part of every single vote. And then he's even, I part of Sam's whole thing is that he's a jock, but he's also like a theater kid, and he's the glue guy. He can connect to a lot of different types of people. And then he even whips out his acting skills with Operation Italy and um, all these things. His whole thing is that he's not a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's a wolf in wolf's clothing. And people are like kind of like you're saying like he's the quintessential athletic jock popular dude, but he's in a way he's leaning into that to kind of lessen his threat at the same time also raise it in a strange way. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's why I'm kind of rooting for right after the episode, I was rooting for Rachel to go home just because I feel like I would be like, we don't know what could happen. But the longer I've gone on, it's like if Rachel goes home, Sam is just sweeping both Teeny and Sue, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Um,
Yeah. I now like to give in a way, like and I agree with you. I think Sam has a great game, but I think in terms of like being like considered on the right side of the vote,
mhm,
um for me, I think that matters I think that matters less to me. Um, just because what matters to me is who do you want gone and do they go home?
Yeah.
And because it's like, you know, um, like you could, I feel like it's kind of easy to be on the right side of the vote if you're not being targeted. Like, and if you're willing to backstab everyone, it's
Right.
like, okay, everyone's voting this person, I'll just vote this person. For me, it really comes in with making like those kinds of moves. And in some ways, I kind of value when someone's in on the wrong side of the vote. I think that it makes it more like interesting. They like stood their ground. Or it's like at least they had some kind of like hope to go one way or some kind of loyalty. Like that's why I think Sue's game is so interesting because it's like she followed this kind of loyal game like to a fault. Um, where I
Right.
think in her head she's like, these are my friends, these are my enemies. I need my enemies gone. And that was Sue's game. It's very two-dimensional. It's like not complex. And I think
Hmm.
especially like I think if she had played me like okay, I haven't watched like old school Survivor, but I feel like
Hmm.
if she played during that time, her game would probably be a lot more respected, maybe, than now where it's like this new age where it's not like that clear cut anymore. No one wants that clear cut of a player. They're boring. It's not strategic. It's not fun. Um, like no one wants this kind of person who's like, I will never vote this person no matter what, and I'm always going to target this person because they did one thing for me. Like, I think the beauty of Survivor and the beauty of this season for everyone except Sue has been the fluidity of it.
Hmm.
The constant changing in alliances, the changing of who it has the power and what the power structure is. And, people like not being like, well, I would never work with this person because they voted me. But where it's like, no, we've seen that people have been on opposite sides. Someone's targeted someone before. Like Teeny targeted Sam in or wanted Sam gone in the Soul vote, I think. It was
Hmm.
either the
Yep.
Soul vote but there was one point where Teeny wanted Sam gone. And then next episode,
Or it might have been the
they're
Sierra
open to
vote.
working. Oh yeah. And then, next episode, they're talking and willing to work again. And I think that
Hmm.
in this like new
Which
era,
somehow Teeny, I don't know what happened from Teeny willing to like take a step back and be like, okay, you know what? Maybe I was targeting Sam, but now I can work with them. But then like, I hate Sam so much. Like maybe that's really
yeah,
the
that
exhaustion getting to them or something. I don't know.
I think okay, as a queer kid,
Uh huh.
I understand the frustration that Teeny has towards Sam
Hmm.
because I feel like a lot of queer people do where you're in this situation where like once again it's like high school all over again. The fucking jock is over there like wooing everyone and you're just like, are you fucking kidding me, you guys? Like come on. So I do get that frustration, and this could be just me projecting, but I think, especially in the beginning, there was a part of me that did not like Sam because I have that perception. I'm like, oh
Hmm.
god, like it's another fucking jock bro sports reporter who's like just gonna like come in, bro out, and be like, well, I'm really strong. But that's not who Sam is. I did call Sam and Sierra in the beginning like the traditional Mormon couple, and I stand by that. Um, but like, but I think I would say that's where the frustration comes from. I imagine when you're really hungry, you've been on the bottom, and it probably feels like an injustice to Teeny that Sam has made it this far, and kind of like, it's like Teeny probably has like so much frustration
Hmm.
that I don't think they know how to express.
Well, and
Um,
I think it's combined with the exhaustion and like you're slowly getting closer and closer to day 26 and you're like it's like a paper thing like a final exam paper that you have to write and the due date is coming up, and you're like, I still haven't gotten anywhere. I don't have my thesis. I don't have my outline. Like I'm fucked. Like what am I gonna do? And like you're like fuck. Like and then like you see Sam like maybe has like an easier. Everyone's perceiving Sam as a threat, and you're like, why? He hasn't done anything. Like he's barely
Yeah.
done anything. So I think there's the exhaustion and also the looming like anxiety of like I feel like I could make it to the end. I can see a path, but I still feel like I'm not gonna get any. I could be the zero vote finalist, which is like honestly I would rather lose to Fire than be the zero vote finalist. That's like feels so humiliating.
Yeah, it must be really painful. And I do think that something that I don't think is brought up enough when it comes to Survivor is that idea of like how perception is so game changing and how we bring in these kind of stereotypes or pre-made ideas that we have in the real world into this game where they're honestly not applicable. Like if we looked at the cast from the beginning, we'd say, okay, Sam's gonna be like the strongest, but he wasn't. He didn't win shit. Like, granted, he could bulldoze through stuff, but after that, he was just fucked. Like if we're talking competition wise, like Sue won more immunities than him.
Yeah,
Like so, it's so interesting that, the whole jury probably thinks, well, Sam's like a better like physical player when he isn't. He's like kind of out of all of them the worst. Like it would go Rachel, Sue, and then I don't think Teeny or Sam have well, Sam won
I would
rewards,
put
so I guess Teeny's
Sam
below
over
that.
Teeny. Teeny hasn't
Yeah.
like won anything. Sam
Yeah,
has won
Teeny
some
hasn't won anything.
rewards, and I feel like yeah, his some of his reward wins are the only one I can remember felt very dominant. Like he fucking plowed through it and then just made
Yeah.
the last few things. Um,
Yeah.
and then also like Operation Italy, like you Genevieve and Sam were both like they had that thing they had to balance on, and they're like, oh crap, I can't get this, but they both were clearly throwing it
Yeah.
because Operation Italy wasn't possible without both of them losing the
Mhm.
immunity. Um, so I agree. Like that's the beauty of the game of Survivor is that literally anyone could win. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
your like race, gender, age, whatever it
Mhm.
is. Like you can
Exactly. Yeah.
win. Um,
Yeah.
and there's ways to get there that are easier or harder. But it is yeah I and it yeah like perception is also at the same time perception still is extremely important. So yes, anyone could win, but if you're not perceived as a potential winner, then you really have no chance.
Yeah. It's And it's tough, and you have to just hope that in that final speech you can convince people.
Hmm.
And I think for me, I think the problem, like if like I'm kind of going through analyzing, all the four players and their four different journeys.
Hmm.
Um, because I think it's really interesting because Teeny kind of started in this perfect situation, I think, for them.
Hmm.
Like having Keyshawn and Asia and like that three-person alliance that seemed pretty strong to begin with. But then,
Yeah.
Asia goes home, Keyshawn goes home, and before merge, Teeny's already lost like their closest allies, and they're stuck with
And
like
those they would have been perfect shields strategically for Teeny because I think what we're
Mhm.
seeing now is Teeny is like one of the youngest contestants on the cast, and they're
Yeah.
kind of spilling everyone's tea. Like they're drinking wine and
Yeah.
accidentally spilling the fake idol, which Genevieve was
Oh my
perfectly
god,
fine
yeah.
with because it almost gave more
Yeah.
validity to it. Even though,
Mhm.
anyways, I don't think. I think that's also a big problem with Teeny's game. I think if Teeny had moves that were successful, that wouldn't be much of a issue. But I think one of the reasons why Teeny is not being able to make successful moves is because people are like, whatever I tell Teeny is gonna be like, they're like loose lips sink ships. Like I can't
Yeah,
tell Teeny with any actual plan because if I do, it's going to be exposed within the next 10 minutes. um,
absolutely. Like,
and I think that's the biggest flaw with Teeny's game, which is
yeah,
not really being explained completely, I feel like.
yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, I think in this game, information is power. Like, when you are told something alone, that is power, and to reveal it at the right time is powerful, as we saw with Sam and him revealing that Genevieve's idol was fake. He kept that information to himself, and then he was like, okay, this information is hurting me more than helping me now. I need to reveal it.
Hmm.
And whereas, Teeny kind of just instantly tells everyone everything. So, you know, when you tell everyone all the information you have, now all of them have all the information you have, and you become kind of like not
No
now you have
leverage.
less information than
Yeah.
than everyone else, and that's just gonna ruin you. I think that's why
Which,
like votes have been like I think Teeny kind of thought these votes would be so much more clear cut, um, and they just
well,
never have been.
and I think Teeny could have given a very uh, convincing argument. They relate uh, a lot of their frustrations in the game with their own personal struggles, and even the like, someone even it was kind of brought up in this past tribal council that Teeny is kind of can't keep a secret, and Teeny was like, "Yeah, I can't. This is something that I've this has been part of who I am my whole life. I'm someone that can't keep a secret." But then they kind of twisted it in a way where it's like I'm owning that in part of my game, and it's gotten me here. So it is working for me so far. So I do think Teeny has the like articulative, like the skills to articulate a convincing argument, and that's why I think it would have been interesting to see them give their pitch in Final Tribal. But I think you that can only take you so far. Like you still need to have
Yeah,
shit to like back it up, and I just don't think he's been able to collect enough ammo really.
yeah,
Um, so we're at 37 minutes. I mean, I feel like
yeah.
anyone could probably tell what our predictions would be based on what we've said so far. Um,
But just to clarify, to
mhm,
finalize them, I'm
yeah,
curious, who do you think is going to win immunity next, and who are they bringing with them to the final, and who will be forced to do fire?
I don't know because I mean it's hard to predict. You don't know what the challenge is. What I
Yeah.
do know is I think Teeny is losing fire. What would be interesting is the hard thing is if so let's so I think Teeny's losing in fire, but that means who is Teeny going up against? And could it be Rachel? Um, yeah, I could see that. But if Sam were to win immunity, you don't think I think he would take his I think he would put himself in fire against Rachel. I don't I
Interesting.
don't
I
think he
hadn't
would
considered
take
that.
Sue. Um, and if Sue won immunity, I don't think Sue's gonna win immunity. What I think is gonna happen is Rachel's
Mhm.
going to win immunity and take Sam as a way to kind of like defang or declaw. It's like I literally brought him here. Um, and kind of keep
Interesting.
that perception leverage against him. And I think it might because if Rachel wins immunity and doesn't pit herself against Sam, then it's kind of a like, what are you doing? You're just gonna let Sam like beat Teeny at fire and then get to the end and he has all this momentum. Um, I think
Mm,
there is a valid argument to be like, no, I took him here because I've done enough and I think I can beat him and whoever wins between Sue and Teeny like doesn't really matter. Um,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's my final prediction.
That's a good predict. I didn't think about it like that, but that would be smart of Rachel to do. Um, no, my prediction was going to be I think either Rachel or Sam are gonna win it, and no matter what, they're bringing Sue. And because I I think if Sam wins, that would be the most interesting. Like you have a very interesting choice to make.
Uh huh.
Um, because like I'm kind of thinking like Sam, I feel like for Sam's game, he needs Rachel gone. And so like putting himself in fire is Garen is like unless he puts himself in fire against Rachel, um like which I think would be like the riskiest move, but I think would be the most necessary.
Yeah.
Um, like I think if Sam wins, like Rachel has to go to fire, and I think he might take himself with like take like kind of do this final thing because I think going up against her at this point is so difficult. They've seen her idol play. They've seen the past two tribals them talk about how much of a threat Rachel is, how they need to get her out, and how they can't, and how they failed both times.
Yeah.
Um,
Now,
so I feel like you just need her out.
I still think Sam has a very good argument, and whatever ends up happening, I do hope it is a clash between the two. Um, but I'm just trying to think of what scenario would make it the closest. um, and uh, like I guess it would be. I think it would be Rachel winning fire, or Rachel winning immunity, and then maybe just like trying to hope Eni or Sue beats Sam and Fire and fails. But I don't think. Yeah.
But I think what's also interesting is we've seen that Rachel, I think, has started putting Sam in the same category as Sue and Teeny. And I think we've seen that in the most recent episodes, where, the three are sitting together and Rachel only considers Genevieve a threat, and that's what is kind of
Right.
shown. Um, so maybe a part of that is Rachel will win and bring Sue, I feel. I think Rachel may be discounting and maybe kind of discounting Sam and having that kind of like this
Well,
kind of more confident mindset.
if they're discounting Sam though, they probably have to think either Teeny or Sue is the other, like in in Rachel's power rankings, right? Of the other three. If they're
Mhm.
discounting Sam, who's filling in that number one spot? I feel like it would probably be Sue because you're like worried about the Luvus and it's an older woman,
Yeah.
kind of has that, not that that's like I think Sue thinks that's a lot bigger of a reason to vote for her than it really is of like, oh, I'm the oldest woman. Like I think it's a
Yeah.
great story, but I don't think it's gonna convince anyone to vote for her. Like everyone's
Yeah.
known that, whether she was lying about her
Because
age or
that's stuff
not.
outside the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um.
I do think it's interesting though if we compare it to last season where Kenzie won,
Hmm.
and I think Kenzie's kind of story really swayed, or I don't know, was Maria bitter? Probably. Um, but Maria says like I was swayed by, Kenzie's speech to vote for her. So I think it's interesting where it's like because Charlie kind of played a much better game, I think, than Kenzie, but Kenzie still won. So it's interesting how and last time I did not see that coming. I thought it was so certain that Charlie was gonna win. Like it was
Really?
like 100%. There was no way. Yeah. I did not think Kenzie was gonna win because they show her as like a mean girl to begin with. And yes, she kind of does have this redemption, but um they did show her kind of floundering a lot throughout, the merge, she's like, do I get Tiffany out? Like, let's get Tiffany out. I'm backtracking, actually, I can't do that. And um so it was or like, I hate Q, but I have to work with him, but like now I hate him. So it was a lot of that, in which um
That was a weird season.
but yeah, so that's why I'm like,
I
I'm
love
not
that
sure,
season
because
actually. Sorry.
it was a good season, but that's why I'm not sure, because it's like, I don't know, like, I don't like, for in fantasy terms, I would love if Sue won. That'd be great. For
Oh wait,
me.
actually, yeah, we have
Um
not done the fantasy rankings. I'll switch it right
oh
now. Forgot about
yeah.
that. Um, should we?
People have to
Sorry,
know.
you can. You want to finish your thought, and then we can end the episode on the fantasy rankings.
Yeah. I think my thought is, I think in my head, I think that, like, how you like, outside factors should not impact who you vote for in this game. Like, it's about
Mm-hmm.
who played the best. That's how I think, but
Mm-hmm.
I also know that that's not how everyone thinks. Like, if
Right.
you have an empowering story and an inspiring story, and you say, "Hey, I made it here even after going through this, and this," you can sway people's votes. And so I think that could be Sue's superpower. That's the only way I can see her winning, is
Yeah.
going down that road.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think with the edit, it's pretty clear that that's just
Yeah,
not gonna happen.
yeah. I
If anything, I
don't
feel
think
like
so.
the edit would be trying to make an argument for Teeny more than Sue, but I just don't think either are gonna happen at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
I hope either don't happen, because that would just be kind of more unfulfilling.
yeah. So Christina had a fucking insane. It was like plus 50 something because
Oh my
they had
god.
because in this one episode, Rachel had like the most confessionals. She got the fishy. She made an
Oh
idol
my
play
god.
and nullified 3 votes. She used her advantage to block a vote. She
Yeah.
and did I mention the fishy?
Yeah.
Like she got every
What
she
didn't
just
you know?
swept. The only thing she didn't get was the episode title, which went to what did it go to? Oh, that's right, it went to Teeny. Let's go!
Because they read tree mail.
I don't care. An episode title is an episode title.
I mean, yeah, I
Um,
mean, true.
I mean that episode title is the reason why I am tied with Gianna right now with 226 points. 2 points behind Emily, who had a rough episode with Andy going home right off the bat. Only got Emily only got +5, which really I don't know. I feel like Molly does have Rachel as her winner pick, which is very important because that
Ooh,
could mean
that might make her skyrocket.
that might she could jump Abby and Connor, depending on how many points Sue
Oh
gets.
shit.
And I don't know if she could jump Sean, but maybe I don't know. Sean still has Sam, so he's gonna get some confessionals. He's gonna get some placement points. I think Sean has third place locked up basically. Um,
Mm.
so the only because he's at 265, you Michael are at 325,
Oh.
and then
Oh
Christina is
shit.
at 353.
Oh my god.
So
Wow.
it's really I don't think there's gonna be much movement. I think the only thing is Molly may jump a bit if Rachel wins. I'm going to pass Emily. Um, can I catch Abby? Probably not. I don't think I can catch Molly because Rachel's probably gonna win. But maybe if Rachel doesn't win, maybe I can hop Molly too.
Mm.
Um, if
If Teeny
Sam,
wins, you're set.
which I mean, if Teeny wins, I think I did the math. I think I can get like fourth. I don't even think I can get third. Or no.
Oh.
Maybe I can get third, but I can't beat you. Like you're too
Oh,
far ahead.
I'm just simply too good.
If Sam
Stop! I'm
wins,
blushing.
if Sam wins now,
Sean might jump in.
I don't know if I don't know because he's Michael. You let's see. What is the quick math? 35 plus 25 is 60. Um, he has 60 points to make up, and I don't know if he can make that up with just Sam because he doesn't have a winner pick either. If honestly,
Mhm.
Abby would overtake Connor if Sam wins. So there's that as well. Um,
Mm.
but I mean, Christina is just way ahead of everyone. So
Yeah, really, man. That like shit. Talk about like I think I would say out of all the fantasies, I think this time overall we picked I think the worst. I'd say. Um,
like you and
just
me,
because Sam and no, no, no,
what?
no, no, like everyone overall.
I mean, Christina has Jeannie and
No,
Rachel.
like I think just like overall because of the fact that there's two Final Four peoples that only all 13 of us decided to pick once. Like Sean's the
Right,
only one with Sam, Christina's the only one with Rachel, and so many of
right.
us have like there are so many people who were picked 3 times that went like home
Well,
so early.
2 people picked the first boot. 3 people picked the second boot. Who was the next boot after that?
It was Asia, I think, right?
It was Asia. So only 2 people, or Emily picked Asia. I know someone else picked Asia.
I think Molly did, didn't she?
Oh yes, she did. Um,
Yeah. So 2 people again picked the third boot. um,
I think the biggest thing though is 2 people picked the first boot and 3 people picked the second boot. That was
yeah.
if any of us made a slightly different pick. Like if I feel like my TK pick, man. I don't know what. If I picked Sam instead of TK, that would have been insane.
Yeah. If I picked Sam instead of Rome, it'd be over for everyone.
But I don't know
Um,
if Sean. When did Sean made his pick? See what you know what Sean did is his second pick was Sam, which I think like blocked, or maybe I picked before Sean.
all I
Did
remember
Sean
is
have the
that
first pick?
I think Sean was really early. I think he either had the first or second.
Oh,
But I just remember that when I was deciding between my third, I remember Rome and Sam were still left, but I didn't want anyone because I was so anti-Sam, and I was like, okay, guess I'll go with Rome. But then Rome turned out to be like, a good choice overall, but a really shitty player.
good pick overall, but I think at the end of the day, like someone like Kyle still might have contended. He might have had more points than Rome, or similar.
I
Terrible.
mean, I would hope considering
Sean did
I
have the
only had
first
some.
pick. Um,
Oh wow.
but he picked Sam in the second round. So no one picked Sam, and everyone slept on Sam in the second round, which honestly probably a mistake. I remember thinking like picking players that haven't been picked yet are very valuable, but I still decided to go with TK because I was like, shit, Adam picked TK. I Adam has the worst track record in history. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, with that, we are past the 50-minute mark, so
Okay.
I think
I
it's
wrap it up.
time to wrap this episode up. But
Yeah.
thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully see you again
Yes.
soon.
Yeah. See you again soon, where we will discuss the finale part
The
two.
finale of the finale episode of the Michael and Ella show, discussing the finale of the finale, and
Yeah.
it's the finale of our show.
Yes. It's gonna be a crazy time. Make sure to tune in when we post, and also like, comment, subscribe. Leave your comments below who you think is gonna win. Are you Team Sue, Team
So
Teeny, Team Sam, Team
so
Rachel?
true. So
What do you
true.
think's gonna happen? Do you agree with us? Do you hate us? Like, what's the vibe? Let us know, you know?
All right. Well, with that, we'll see you
Bye,
guys.
fam!